Give me a D and a G. It's the Dawg Gus Show. It's the Dawg Gus Show.
Welcome to the Dawg Gus Show.
Now on Be Kind Radio.
You got it.
What's going on, Dog?
Well, we're going to talk with James from Lycanthro today.
Lycanthro.
Yes.
What's up, James?
Great, guys, and thank you so much for having me, and really, really happy to be here.
Glad you're here. We love your stuff, so it's great to have you. How would you describe Lycanthro in one sentence to someone hearing you for the first time?
In one sentence?
Or many, or various. It's up to you.
I'd say, well, do you want the professional answer, or do you want the funny answer, or both?
Both.
So the kind of basic answer I would say would be like, we're a now 5-piece Canadian power metal band, very much inspired by like old school bands like Judas Priest and Blind Guardian, Halloween, stuff like that. But the funny answer, whenever someone says, oh, describe your band in one sentence, I'm always like, I'll look them dead in their soul. I'll be like, imagine the music that plays when werewolves are just eating a freshly killed dragon's carcass.
That would be a cool sound.
Yeah. You just looked into my soul.
Yes, you did.
I'm uncomfortable.
Don't be.
Okay. Where did the name come from, James?
Well, I always as I said, I've always had a big affinity for wolves and always loved old, I knew the sort of imagery I wanted around the band to be around werewolves and stuff. So the name was obviously, there's the term lycanthrope, which is like the scientific term, at least in movies or whatever, for a werewolf. But there's a bunch of bands called lycanthrope. So basically, I just took the PE off the end and just said, oh, lycanthro. And I'm like, oh, that kind of rolls off the tongue nicely. So that's how I came up with the name.
Nice. Werewolves. So, what's your favorite werewolf movie?
Ooh, it is The Howling. That is my personal favorite.
It's a good one.
Yeah. I was going to,
I like Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
A Werewolf in London?
Yeah,
That's a good song.
American Werewolf in London's classic.
American Werewolf. Yeah.
Yeah, I also like.
So what?
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
There's some other really good ones out there, like Ginger Snaps is another really good one. Dog Soldiers too, but Howling's always my favorite.
Nice. What's the one with Benicio del Toro?
I think that's just Werewolf or Wolfman I think.
I think it's Wolfman.
Yeah, it was like a remake of the original Wolfman movie. Yeah, I haven't actually seen that one yet.
I think it was pretty good, if I remember. Anyways, what was the exact moment you knew music wasn't just a hobby anymore?
Well, for me, it was actually probably because I've never really considered music a hobby, because I remember the moment was, I always tell people this story where I was 7 years old and my dad's side of the family's British, right? And one time when I was 7 years old, my dad, are we allowed to swear on here, by the way?
Yes.
He does.
And my dad parked my ass in front of the TV when I was 7 years old and put on Queen live at Wembley Stadium. And At first I was like, Dad, I don't want to watch this. I want to freaking play video games or whatever, But then I watched the whole thing, and by the end of it, I was like, no, that's what I want to do. Like, I knew for the rest of my life, that's what I want to do.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so from a very young age, I knew that music and performing was always something that I knew would be a gigantic part of my life. So, yeah.
Cool. That's awesome.
That's a good introduction right there. Good props on Dad right there. Good job, Dad.
Hey-o.
Parenting, 10 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
Now, how did you get to what you do now, James, as opposed, Queen is not the same genre as what you do. So how did you move from Queen and everybody that played that day to what you guys put out today?
So not that long after that. So as I said, since my family's British, the actual guy who was the metalhead in my family was actually my uncle, my dad's brother. And he was the one who showed me all the metal bands, because he was a metalhead in England back in the 70s, and every single 70s British band you can think of, he saw. He saw Thin Lizzy, he saw Rainbow, he saw UFO, he saw Judas Priest before they were big. So he's the one who introduced me to all those bands, and sort of after I got into that, I kind of discovered a lot of the heavier-ish stuff like Megadeth and Overkill and stuff like that. But then because since I grew up on Queen, I was always more of a melodic guy. So when I discovered in high school, like Halloween and Blind Guardian, I was like, oh, this is like the perfect melding of everything I like in music. It's heavy like Megadeth and Metallica, but then it's also melodic like Queen and stuff like that, and Rainbow and all these bands. So you put the two together, and I was like, so yeah, that's sort of how I kind of got to the genre we are today. I've always said that the goal musically was always to be melodic and epic, but without sacrificing the heaviness. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, I noticed that in a couple of songs as I listened to all your stuff today, and I just some of the intros were like this, like, oh, this is nice. It's like, this little guitar, and then all of a sudden, and then it gets really heavy, and it's like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you like the heavy. So do I, though.
yeah,
I don't- I
but it was a nice like blend into it though. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting for this guys because I know the style that you guys are, and I was like listening to one song, going, okay, all right, yes, okay, so yeah, I see it.
Nice. What does your sound mean to you, like emotionally, not technically?
Well, I always try to. Well, that actually has changed a lot over the years because originally it was more meant to be like, "Oh, I want to make music, just, the thing that's always remained constant is I've always wanted to make the kind of music I want to hear. So, like, I've always wanted to make, old school 80s metal tinged with power metal and stuff like that. Just, I've always tried to strive to write music that I want to hear, that I like, the kind of albums that I enjoy listening to. I always have tried to sort of emulate that. But also in terms of the emotional side of things, I always try and still inject a air of theatricality and emotiveness to it, because that's something I always have liked, was the whole like real showmanship of a lot of these people. And also a lot more recently been just trying to inject a lot more personal things into the I don't want to say personality, but like injecting a lot more things that people can relate to on a personal level into the music as well, because that's always something I've valued as well. So yeah, it's emotionally, it's just a more of a kind of, I make the music that I want to hear and stuff that I can relate to, and I just kind of, and if the audience is able to relate to it too, then I've done my job.
Fair to say. Do you feel like you have two personalities or two personas? You've got James that's standing back watching another band play, enjoying it, and James when he gets on stage.
Kind of like I think I always think that like whenever I'm on stage, I'm sort of like, because I've always tried to like experiment with different sort of stage personas, but I think the thing that always rings true is that when you see me on stage, it's just me turned up to 11, basically. Like, I'm obviously, since I'm the vocalist, I'm a lot more like calm and reserved before the show, but like usually when you see me on stage, you're like, no, that's just, I value authenticity more than anything. So when you see me on stage, it's very much like, yeah, no, that's me in my most purest unadulterated form. I'm very, as I said, I've always been more extroverted. I'm very much a showman. I always try and get the crowd as involved as possible. Yeah, and usually I'm a little bit more reserved off stage, but not by much. I've always been very bounce off the wall and a kind of person. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I do very well, actually. That's
He
me.
do.
That's me.
He do.
I'm the extrovert of the group here for sure.
Mm.
What misconception do you think people have about you or your music?
That's it. That's a very interesting question, actually. Misconception about me and my. Well, I don't actually know, because I've never really been like, no one's ever really said anything like that towards me. But I think the only misconceptions that people have had is that I'm in the genre that I'm in. I think it's just because of my age. Because I'm 27, but I'm in a genre of guys who are mainly in like their 30s and 40s and stuff like that. Because I participate a lot in like the metal scene in North America for old school metal and power metal. Like, I go to a lot of the festivals like Hell's Heroes and Prog Power and all that stuff. Like, I travel a lot because I like to network and all that stuff. But I think the only main misconceptions people might have about me is that I'm maybe naive to certain things because of my age. But it's like, nope, I'm very much a student of the game. I very much know what I'm talking about. I'm a lifelong learner. I go to these things and meet as many people as I can to learn. And yeah, I think that's probably one of the misconceptions people will have about me is, and the music, is because I am so young in a genre of people who are typically a little bit older. Like, I've gotten a lot of the whole, oh, he's just a kid, blah blah blah. Like, well, no, I work very hard at what I do, and I do the best I can to learn everything I can, and I like to think I'm professional. So yeah, I think that's probably the number one thing I can think of.
What's the wildest reaction you've gotten to a song?
Oh, wow. Okay. So there's two that come off the top of my head. So one more fun, one more emotional. So this past weekend, actually, we just played. Oh no, not this, but it was 2 weekends ago. We just finished our very first tour. It was cross Canada, and it kind of culminated at the Hyperspace Metal Festival in Vancouver. And I remember at that show, the song we always close with is a song called Crucible, which is our heaviest song.
Oh,
And
I like that one.
and the thing that was nuts was I remember like that crowd that night was incredible. You know, I was able to, and to the point where the venue we played in was a place called the Cobalt. And it's around the same size as you guys remember Mavericks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like around the same size as Mavericks, maybe slightly bigger. And I think during Crucible, like we were like doing so well performance wise that night, and the crowd was reacting to us so well that I think I was able to get like a good 3/4 of the room to mosh. Like it was like most of the room started moshing, like except for like the few stragglers in the back that don't do it. But like we were able to get like I think a good 90% of the people in that room moshing during Crucible. So that was a huge highlight for sure. But in terms of emotionally, is I'll never forget this, was there was a guy who messaged us after, I think it was when we opened for Rhapsody of Fire here in Ottawa. We have a song that we've since stopped playing it live because we have to make room for new stuff, right? We have a song we used to play called Evangelion, and a guy messaged us one time the day after the show, and because I'm a huge nerd, he kind of picked up that I based the song. There was an anime series called Neon Genesis Evangelion. That's what I based it on. And this one guy messaged me, and he was like, "Hey, I was at the show last night, and I really liked that song Evangelion, and it made me cry because it reminded me of that show kept me from committing suicide." And he's like,
Wow.
this song reminded me of that, and I just wanted to let you know that that song was great, and it made me feel things and all that, and that's to this day one of the best messages I've ever gotten from our music before, you know. So those are the two things that kind of come to mind off the top of my head.
It's very cool. And
That's a very good one.
Yeah.
That's an amazing message to receive.
Mhm.
how does that, like a message like that, when you find out that your music is bigger than just, you're just bigger than just playing music, when you're actually helping people, how does that resonate with you?
Oh, it's absolutely surreal. Like it's very, and it's also like definitely something that I want to try and inspire in more people, because to give you an example, so my favorite band of all time, and they're coming to Ottawa this weekend. My favorite band's Triumph. They were like that for me because they were very much like the kind of music that help me get through dark times. So the fact that even on a smaller scale, I was able that our music could help others in that same way is just absolutely unreal to me. So that has always been a that so getting that sort of reaction from people it's what it's all about, you know.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Well, I mean, you're writing the stuff to reach people, right? And then for somebody to come back with that is just got to be a pinnacle that, okay, great, we did that. So let's keep that kind of vibe going.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah,
And especially these days with like the mental health aspect, right? Like you got to love that.
absolutely. And the whole mental health sort of awareness of that is something that I'm very passionate about, because I have had a lot of people in my life that have been affected negatively by that sort of thing. So that is something that if I'm always able, and I do think music is is probably one of the most visceral ways to kind of explore mental health and explore and help people with mental health. So yeah, that whole side of things I'm very passionate about. So the fact that that it can help someone on that level is astounding to me.
Yeah, it's wonderful stuff. What's your pre-show ritual? Is there anything weird or superstitious?
Oh yeah, I got one. So for me, it's just mainly a lot of vocal warm-ups, and I drink as much electrolytes as I can. So usually before a show, I'll drink like 2 or 3 things of Gatorade. For vocals, I have like my pre-show and also post-show things. Even if it's like a bit superstitious or whatever, it's sort of like a way so I can kind of keep going if like I'm on tour or whatever. So my pre-show is warm up a lot, drink a lot of electrolytes, and my little secret. I'm not able to do this every show because it depends on if the venue has it or not. But I learned from another vocalist friend of mine who's been doing this a lot longer than me. small glass of pineapple juice. I always have that because it kind of almost, because something in the enzymes and stuff, it like lubricates your throat a bit. So I always drink, yeah, as much electrolytes as I can. And then, yeah, just, small glass of pineapple juice before the show. And then after the show it's always like, it ties into that as well, where I'll always have these some sort of immunity blend so I don't get sick, especially if you're doing multiple shows in a row. And also also turmeric. I take turmeric because since it's an anti-inflammatory, it helps with helping the voice recover faster for the next day. So yeah,
There you go.
It's on his rider.
Mhm.
Yeah. You gotta have pineapple juice,
Turmeric,
and
Gatorade.
Gatorade.
Till your face falls
Exactly.
off.
If I see any blue Gatorade in there, then we're gonna have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
You have to toss that shit out with the green M&Ms.
So no green M&Ms and no blue. Got
No.
it. Got it.
Gatorade.
Right in this stuff.
We got you. Next time we come by, we'll know what
Yeah.
to throw up on the stage.
There we go.
Pink Gatorade's the best one.
I like red.
You would.
I do. What's the best show you ever played?
Okay. Probably there's a couple. I'd say, well, this one that we just did in Vancouver at Hyperspace, that's definitely up there. That's like a top 3 for me. Absolutely. Like that show was absolutely unreal. So there's I'd say that one. And then, well, best show ever played with Lycanthro or just in general?
In general.
Okay. So this past weekend in Vancouver, this 2 weekends ago in Vancouver, definitely one of them. Lycanthro had the opportunity to play at, we did some dates in the UK back in 2024. And we played at this fantastic festival called Power Metal Quest Fest, which playing in Birmingham, UK, literally in the birthplace of heavy metal, literally steps away from Black Sabbath Bridge. That was unreal. So that was definitely one. And another one, and this one wasn't with Lycanthro, this is with the other band I'm in, Witch Killer. We got to play Headbangers Open Air in Germany. It's a old school metal festival in Germany. About 3,000 people there. Is outdoor festival. And so those are the ones that comes to mind in terms of the best shows I've ever played, for sure.
Germany knows their metal too.
Oh, they're quite familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah. You ever seen Rammstein?
I've not
Rammstein.
actually. And Rammstein isn't really my thing, to be honest. I appreciate like all the props and the showmanship and the pyro and all that stuff. I love all that stuff. Yeah, but their music was never really my thing, to be honest.
Yeah, fair. We saw them in Montreal, and it was just the show itself was wild because they had like these flames that would go all the way to the back of the space, which was probably, it had to be 100,000 people.
Yeah, there was a part. It was a
and
part.
it was, it was hot. Like it literally got hot as it went by you. It was wild. It was pretty
That's
crazy. But
neat.
yeah, you're right. I love Rammstein just for that, the showmanship. You had to see the
Mhm.
show.
Mhm.
What's a song that you've made that still hits you every time?
Okay. I'd say for me, that is definitely, well, there's 2. So the last 2 songs we always have in our set are one song off of our new album, Remnants of Rapture. It's the last song. It's called Solaris Memories in Time. That song is probably one of the most proud songs I've written. And that one always hits me too, because it's very, it's very fast. It's very emotional. It's, very like inspired by like Dragon Force and Angra and stuff like that. But that one always seems to, get the crowd going, even if they've been a bit fatigued. It's and that song, like every time we play it live, even if I'm starting to get a bit tired on stage, that song always gets me going again. And then we always lead that into the aforementioned Crucible, which is, the one we always close with. That one I wrote when I was like 18 years old. Shocked because a lot of the other songs I wrote back then weren't that great. But the fact that we still play it today and it still gets great reactions from people is amazing. So yeah, I always say, so Solaris Memories in Time and Crucible are like the 2 songs I'm definitely the most proud of, for sure.
Yeah, Crucible is. I would listen to it today. It's like, I like that for sure. When you're writing songs, do you ever, like when you're writing a song, do you ever think, oh my God, this person would be amazing to be on this song with me?
All the time. Someone that I'm really love, collaboration and stuff like that. And I've had that a few times. Like there's some people, like even on just the album that we put out, the most recent album, we had 2 guest vocalists on it. Yeah, these were 2 people who I always looked up to, and the fact I was like, wow, we can have them on this song is amazing. So we had one song called The Great Masquerade, which we had Laura Gilmon from Burning Witches on it, which she was a joy to work with, and that song like came to life because of her. And then the other song on the album, Night of the Parasite, which has Stu Block from Into Eternity and Iced Earth on it. And he was always one of my, he's someone that like now me and him are friends. We've gotten to know each other. But at the time when I wrote it, I was like, man, I've always wanted to have Stu on a song, 'cause he's always been a vocalist I've always looked up to and stuff. But yeah, I think that all the time. Like there's one thing that I always try and have a bit of a tradition is that every release that we do, I always try and have some sort of duet on it, because I've always been a big fan of that. Sonically, I always love the like how it sounds, when it's a man and a woman vocal kind of playing off each other.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I get that all the time for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Laura's voice is incredible on that song. That's why I asked.
What's your creative process like? Is it like chaotic or is it more structured?
It is pretty chaotic actually, because it's like usually only when I write stuff, it's usually like sometimes like I'll be able to have a huge stroke of creativity. I'll write like a good like half of a whole song or whatever like that. But that for me, it's more like in parts, right? Like I'll write stuff just as it comes to mind, and it's like I don't really like whenever I actually sit down and I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna write this song. Excuse me. I'm gonna sit whenever I sit down, and be like, okay, I'm gonna write this song or write this part to this song or whatever. Usually, I usually have a hard time doing it. Usually, I'm someone that like value uh structure and planning for sure, but I also do value spontaneity as well. I kind of try and keep a balance between the two. But more often than not, when I'm writing songs, it's usually like, shit, I got this idea, I got to write it down, and then usually the song kind of forms from there, and then I'll tweak and see what works and what doesn't. Yeah, because whenever I actually sit down and try and like, okay, I'm gonna write this song, usually nothing comes. So usually it's when I'm sitting here with like with my guitar, like watching stuff, and I'll play something, I'll be like, or I'll like have a vocal melody come to mind. I'm like, shit, I gotta write that down, or like go into like Guitar Pro and type and put it in or whatever. So I would say my creative process is more chaotic than structured for sure. Because whenever I try to have it structured, it usually ends up kind of like I usually end up kind of going blank. You know what I mean?
Now, is there TV show or a series or a movie that you would love to have your music being part of the soundtrack?
Well, yeah, of course. Whenever I think of like stuff like that, I always think, as much as I'd love to have something in like fantasy video game like Skyrim or something, but they obviously don't have heavy metal and that kind of thing. But like I always think like realistically, if there was like something that I would love to have our music in, it'd be something like if they ever made like a Brutal Legend sequel or something, which was like the video game that the whole soundtrack is all old school metal. I'd love to have that. I'd love to have maybe in like a Tony Hawk game or something, because those games always had a lot of metal like in it or stuff like that. So yeah, I'd probably say yeah, some of those, like, because I grew up in the time in like the sort of late 2000s, early 2000s, when like a lot of video games had kind of these, they didn't really write their own soundtracks. It was more kind of just licensed stuff. Like I grew up like when 3 Inches of Blood was in literally every game, right? So it was, if I was able to have one of our songs in, like if they ever made a Brutal Legend sequel, or if they put our song in like a skateboarding game like Tony Hawk or something, then that would be freaking a dream come true for sure.
Nice.
I like how you said obviously, but like we don't know what he's.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. Our listening folk will definitely know what you're talking about, but we're past the bids.
I knew who Tony Hawk was.
I played Tony Hawk the original on PlayStation 1. That was like how old I am, but that had like Rage Against the Machine. They had a whole bunch of songs that do you write from personal experience or do you build some stories?
Both. So the thing that was, it sort of comes in waves, because like one thing that was a big theme in the new album was a lot of the songs were based on like crafting stories. Like again, or since I'm a huge nerd, I like to like base a bunch of songs off things. Like as I said, there was some songs based on shows and video games or whatever, and like that's all fun. And I always like getting when people seeing if like there's if I go to like if we play at a festival and like I'll have someone be like, that song's about this, and I'm like, yep, you're right. Like I always get a bit of a kick out of that. But more recently I've been a lot more inclined to do it to write from personal experience. Like the song that you heard with Laura was definitely one of them, because that song is mainly about like people being fake, especially online. And I'm at the point now as a songwriter where I'm like, especially with a lot of the new material that I'm writing for Lycanthro, I'm at the point now where I'm like, you know what? Like power metal's gotten a lot almost like, this might sound weird because this is the genre. I'm like, it's gotten almost too happy. It's gotten almost too happy to the point of almost ignorance. So I'm like, nah, like I'm at the point now where I'm like, there's lots of things going on within the community and within, I'm not going to sit here and be political and be like, the world in general, even though that's obviously true, but like in sort of our pocket of, the space that like a lot of us metalheads occupy, are like kind of like back in the day, the alternative subgenres like goth and punk and all that stuff. Metal's the same. And I'm someone that like, I'm at the point now as a songwriter where I'm like, nah, I got shit to say now because there's things happening in this space that I like, that I love, found that I found sanctuary in that I don't like. And there's things that I feel like people, there are things that I'm seeing. I'm like, well, I came to this space to get away from shit like this and I'm still seeing it. You know what I mean? So I'm very much at a point now where I want to be able to write more personally myself because I got stuff to say. And like, I always say that even though power metal is inherently a happy genre, doesn't mean it has to be happy all the time, and doesn't mean you can't use that sort of raw visceral emotion that this genre gives off to talk about some real shit.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Is there a lyric you've written that you're most proud of?
Ooh. Yeah, again, off the top of my head, that's very hard to think. I'd probably say like all the lyrics for, again, that same song that I mentioned earlier, Solaris Memories in Time, pretty much all the lyrics in that I'm very proud of because I've always, so like one of my favorite lyricists is Adrian Cowan from Seven Spires. And I've always loved the very poetic nature of her lyrics. And that's always something where like, even though our music doesn't really call for that as much as theirs, I've always admired that kind of lyricism. So with Solaris, I basically that whole song, I'd say, because it's the closest I've gotten to that. And so definitely that whole song would definitely be, lyric wise, would be the one that I'm most proud of. Because even though the song is based on, again, nerd, it's based on an old video game called Xenogears. But if you don't know what that is, the song is about like, like through lifetimes and the whole kind of old notion of two people or two spirits could find each other in different lifetimes, even if they're in the bodies of different people and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so I'm very proud of the lyrics in that song for sure.
Nice. Okay, you just robbed a bank
Oh,
and
boy.
you're in the car and there's you put the song on that you're driving away to. What is it?
So my brain, that if that ever happened, I would want it to be something funny or something ironic. So like, I don't know, if I robbed a bank and it'd be playing like music, it'd be something that like would be almost ironic, like maybe like Lowrider or something, or what was the other one I was just thinking of? Like Lowrider or I Shot the Sheriff or something like that. Just something that would just make it funny in some way. That would probably be what
That's
I would
great.
say, or just something to be like a little mocking. So that's probably would probably be my answer for that.
Okay, I need to know, is it the Bob Marley, I Shot the Sheriff, or is it the Eric Clapton?
No,
I Shot the
Eric
Sheriff?
Clapton, easy. The Eric Clapton version.
Okay,
That's fair.
I'd go with I Fought the Law, Bobby Fuller Trio.
I was gonna say the Clash.
They did a version of that too, yeah.
Yeah, they did.
That's another good one too.
Oh, we're doing ironic. I'll do Scooby Snacks by the Fun Loving Criminals.
Another one that I just thought of, if you want to go a bit more metal, because again, this one would be very funny and ironic, and again a little bit show a little bit of mockery, but Anthrax, I Am the Law.
There you go.
Good one.
Yeah.
It's a fun question.
Oh yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I was not
You and
expecting
your
that.
humor.
Yeah. We switch it up. Gotta like just divert you a little bit.
Yeah. We'll get you heavy and then we get you funny and then we're back into it.
Mm.
How important is the artwork for the albums that you create?
Very important. Someone that I'm very like, I'm always been a big fan of album art, and I've always tried to always have a very clear vision for what I want out of the album art from the band, and trying to, keep it on brand and still have it something that's visually enticing for people to see, because I'm someone that I've always liked album covers that have a lot of detail, that are very striking. Like I've always said to people, my favorite album cover is Rainbow Rising. So because the big freaking big fist that's like holding the rainbow, and
Yep.
there's mountains everywhere and stuff, like that's cool. Like I've always like, that's why I always try and have try and find like the best artists or the artists that I admire to do our album covers, because to me that almost is just, if you have a really great album with a lame album cover, that all to me that almost sort of is defeats it a bit, And like for example, I know back in the day, one thing that was very popular was with bands with the album cover just being like a photo of the band. And even though there are lots of albums that I do like that have that, to me it's the same thing where I'm like, whenever I see that, I'm like, oh, it's a bit lazy, isn't it? Like you couldn't do better than that.
Yeah. Or like what was it? Like Corn or Limp Bizkit, like new metal or whatever. And they always have like their hands. Like,
Yeah.
it's like one of I was like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah.
I still was okay with it, but yeah.
I agree with James. The album cover has to. There's a lot of stuff that came out like Iron Maiden's album covers are always solid. Asia was an '80s band that had some pretty cool album covers.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. Asia's album covers are top tier. Like the first Asia album, like if I was a kid in, I don't remember what year it came out, but like 1980 whatever. If I walked into a record store,
81, 82.
yeah, 81, yeah. If I walked into a record store and I see this giant water dragon on the front of the album, I'm like, that's the album I want to buy.
Maybe they knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah,
It was a pretty solid album.
Yep.
I have it.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure you do.
it's a legendary album. I love that album. I have it on vinyl. So
Nice.
What keeps you going when things feel slow or frustrating?
wow, okay, that's a difficult question. The thing that keeps me going is I always have to remind myself that it's the promise I made to myself when I was a kid, because I remember how I said when I was like 7 years old, seeing Queen, like the Queen DVD or whatever, and I said, this is what I want to do. That's sort of what keeps me going, is that because when you're in the music industry, especially when you're starting to play bigger shows outside of just the local area and doing some of the bigger shows we've done, it's, when it gets to a lot of the stuff, when it comes to finances and touring finances and band dynamics and having to deal with people like promoters and booking agents and people on the outside, and having to deal with rejection, or having to deal with scene politicking and stuff like that. These are all things that would normally, or band members leaving or whatever. These are all things that normally are like they're very emotionally distressing for sure. And it's one of the things that's the thing that mainly keeps me going, is the fact that I'm like, no, I promised myself when I was a kid that this is what I was going to do. And I promised myself that I would do whatever it took to achieve my goal. I would learn whatever I had to do. I would have to, there's a term. So my best friend, who's not a musician, but he works in film. I had a best friend from high school, and me and him bonded over, we were both lovers of art. He always wanted to be in film. I always wanted to be a musician. And the thing he always used to say, and I do believe this wholeheartedly, is the term he always used to use was break your ego. They're like, you have to like any sort of ego that you have, you will eventually get it broken by the industry that you're in. So you might as well break it yourself first, because then you'll save yourself from pain and suffering later. Because then if something shitty does happen to you, then you can just dust yourself off really quick and then keep going, So that's usually the way that I kind of get through it.
It's a good advice.
Very
Yeah.
good advice. Now, James, I know I've seen you at a bunch of shows at the Dom and stuff. How important is it to get out and support the other local acts when you're not playing?
That's an interesting question, because I would normally say it is very important. You need to like cultivate a good community, especially. That's the main thing in music in general, is that I do believe that no matter what genre you're in or whatever, I feel like community is very important, because especially in the times we're living in right now, community is the best form of rebellion, I think. Bonding over stuff like art, music, whatever, going to support other people's shows and stuff like that. It is very important, because that is something that not only helps the scene and help the music community grow, other bands grow, but it also helps, I feel like a lot of these sort of communities, even small pockets, help society in general. Because in an age where where sort of where the powers that be, I guess, are doing everything to make people more divided, I feel like, we don't need another thing that keeps us divided, right? And but on the other hand, I was going to say that the thing that I want to see more of, and this is one of the things, kind of ties back to what you were saying in the last question about what keeps you going through a lot of tough times and frustrating times is that I'm seeing both on the local level and on the greater level above that, that it's sort of, there's a lot of vitriol, drama, scene politics, stuff like that. And it's something that I feel like it's kind of distressing because I'm like, oh, aren't we all here for the same thing? Aren't we all here to escape the bullshit of regular life, right? But so on one hand, I do agree that that community, we need to have a stronger emphasis on community, because I'm also starting to feel like that's even in the music scene, that's starting to get a little bit lost on people. So that's why it's all the more important to go out and support and trying to get along with everyone in your scene as best you can.
Nice. What's your go-to way to reset mentally?
Doing nothing, literally just because, like, especially when you're in a band, especially when you're running a band, it is very overwhelming, the amount of things you gotta deal with, not just on the music side, but on the business side as well, because it is a business and you have to treat it as such. So for me, it's mainly just like the typical stuff, sitting at home doing nothing. I've gotten back into reading a lot, watching stuff, going out, being in nature, stuff like that, going on lots of walks, working out. So just anything you can do to better yourself mentally is how I reset, because it's very easy to get caught up in the and I've fell victim to this a bunch of times, where it's very easy to get caught up in the hodgepodge of things in the music industry that could keep you down, right? So that's usually what I do, is just very much try and do stuff that's very joy inducing, that's also very, I don't want to use the term brainless, because I don't mean that as a bad thing, but sometimes you got to just, do stuff that's brainless, because it gives you a rest. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the wrong way to say it.
That was a very good way to say it.
Yeah. So is there a genre that, like, if you're out at a show of a different genre, that people be surprised to see you at?
Oh, yes. So before I even got into metal, one of the things I grew up on alongside like bands like Queen and all that stuff is I'm a big Europop fan. I grew up on Roxette. I grew up on Aqua, and I love that stuff. So yeah, like usually when people say, "Oh, what genre?" people wouldn't expect, it's definitely that. Like my dad and I remember a few years ago went all the way to Niagara Falls to see Aqua, and it was amazing.
Mhm.
So big Europop fan right here. So I find I also like it a lot, because it's a lot more, even though it's a lot cheesier than pop that we get in North America, I also find it's a lot more genuine and a lot more honest. So yeah, so big Europop fan here.
Nice. I wouldn't have. That was not something I expected, but I like it.
Yeah. I'm kind of happy that we got that kind of answer.
Yeah.
Good old Aqua.
Well, not even just that, but also like I'm a big goth fan as well. A lot of my best friends were into that. So like, even though I don't really dress it, I like to go out to goth clubs, and I love like The Cure and Sisters of Mercy and bands like that too. So yeah,
That's good. A little diversity.
Little Bauhaus.
A little
Mhm.
bonus. Yeah. What's a goal you've hit recently that meant a lot?
definitely was just 2 weeks ago, was doing our first tour. That meant a lot, because Lycanthro, the vision I've always had for the band was the band to be a touring band, and being able to tour around the world, get on, tour with other bands in our genre. And this was the first step to that, because we'd been a band for a while, but we've never had the chance to do an actual tour. We were supposed to do one back in 2020, but then the pandemic happened, obviously. But the fact that we were able to do that and get out of it pretty unscathed, and for it to go as well as it did, was a huge achievement. So yeah, I always say so. Doing our first tour, that was, and the audience reaction that we got, and even if the city had a lot of people, or if it was a show like on a weekday where it wasn't as many people, the reactions we got from the crowds all across the country was really great. So that's definitely a goal that I'm very proud of, that was reached very recently.
Nice.
Very cool. Okay, you get carte blanche on a one-day festival. Who's your opener?
Like, what do you mean by that? Like, we're headlining, you mean?
You're headlining, but you got guys that are going to play in front of you, yeah. And you got anybody that you can want to get ever. Who's it going to be?
It's pretty technical.
Open
way
for
to do it
us.
there, Dawg.
Thanks. Yeah.
So like this kind of begs the question though: are we as we are now, or if this is like if we got to like a big headliner level band, like hypothetically?
Sure. Let's go hypothetically. You're a big band.
No.
No, we're not.
Not hypothetical.
Oh.
When it
Oh, sorry. He
happens,
doesn't like that.
Thank
when
you.
it happens, when it's that, like in a few years or when this happens, when you're the big band that's the headliner, who's opening for you?
Okay. So
Who's supporting you?
We're
So
supporting you.
I'm always a big believer in that. I like the Metallica method where when they got big, they started having bands that kind of inspired them who might have been more underappreciated to open for them. Like obviously Metallica had Diamond Head and Raven and all these bands sort of open for them, right? And so I would kind of pick someone similar to that, where it's like someone who is a band that maybe not as many people know, but had a huge impact on me. So I'd probably say that's fucking tough. Hang on, let me look at my like little collection right here, just see if I can think of anybody.
And by the way, I wasn't stealing your thunder there, dog. I was like,
Yeah, you were.
No, I was like, we don't say
Jerk.
hypothetically. We say
I know.
when.
I lost my head.
You lost it.
I lost my head.
You
It's
know
not a
what?
full
I'd
show unless
probably
I hear Pat in
say
my
like
voice.
somebody like again, so yeah, so I'd go the route of someone who was very influential to me that not as many people would know. So like I'd say like Leather Leone from Chastain, big inspiration to me. And she's someone who I'd want everyone to know, who in my opinion is way underappreciated. So I'd probably say the reason I don't say Chastain is because they've been broken up for years. But yeah, Leather Leone from Chastain is probably who I would say. It'd be either her or like some of the other bands I like looked up to when I was younger, who were kind of on that mid-level, who are maybe no longer with us, like Helium Prime would be another one. Or, just I would always have a band that I think more people should be aware of, whether they were an older band or a younger band or whatever. So yeah, I think those would be my answers if I had off the top of my head.
Cool.
Nice. Good.
Aqua.
Aqua, yeah.
Throw him in just for fun.
That'd be funny, actually.
I mean,
Aqua. And that's like, what?
I mean, when I don't know if you guys were at this show, but I remember back when I was in the 10th grade, my dad took me to see at the CTC. It was Van Halen before Eddie died. But one time they came here, and if you remember rightly, Kool and the Gang was the opening band.
I was there.
Yeah, I was there too.
I was there.
I was there, and I was just like, man,
Buddy.
what a weird.
And how good was Kool?
Oh, amazing! They were incredible. But I was like, man, what a weird band to open for Van Halen, you know?
Yeah, and Diamond Dave was the lead singer. It was like the old Van Halen before Sammy Hagar.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a great show.
Yeah, well, it was a really good show.
But yeah, Kool and the Gang stole the show.
Of course they did.
They were unbelievable.
Yeah, no, they were
I was,
fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
And you would have been quite young, actually. When
No
that was
shocker
Wait,
there.
That would have been, what year was that? I remember it was in the 10th grade. So that would have been 14. 14. I would have been 15 years old.
Okay. I wasn't. I was 33, I think. It was an amazing show, though. It was really cool. We'll do rapid fire. How about this?
Right.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Ooh. No, of course, you're British.
Right.
Yep.
Call that then.
With a name like Delbridge.
Yep.
I was going to have tea.
Yep.
Go ahead. You can do this one. I'll do the other one.
Oh, you want to do more?
You do that, and then I'll do the one that I wrote.
All right. City or nature?
Oh, that's tough. Because I like both. Nature, but like by a hair. Like nature, but like I want to be like near the ocean. That's sort of my pick for that.
Wouldn't the ocean be nature?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'd say nature.
So I think you're okay.
You're good.
You're good.
You're good.
A studio or stage?
Stage. Easy.
Early morning or late night?
Late night.
And one word to describe your current era.
Can I say 2 words?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Dark and honest.
There we go. All right.
Aqua.
Aqua.
You guys should really cover an Aqua song. That'd be
That
fun.
would be fucking
That would be.
hilarious.
I
that-
have always had a vision of doing a metal version of Cartoon Heroes from Aqua.
nice.
That's my favorite
Okay.
song from them. And that song has some of the best production I've ever heard on anything ever. So, yeah, I've
So-
always had a vision of doing a metal version of Cartoon Heroes. So maybe that can
Okay.
happen.
All right.
Do it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay. So I have one called. I call it either or.
Okay.
And so you get to choose between the two. Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones.
Oh, Lord of the Rings, easy.
Dio or Ozzy.
Dio.
I knew that. Leather or denim.
Because I love both. Leather, but like by a hair.
And I figured that one too. Zeppelin or Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden. But again, by a
And
hair.
an
By
easy
a hair.
one. Yeah. And I figured I thought that you might say Zeppelin because they sang about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Iron Maiden, because I hear, if I'm not wrong, I hear Iron Maiden and your influence. Like I hear it
Mm-hmm.
when I'm listening to some of your stuff. I'm like, wow, that's. And last one, Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi. It's sweeter.
And we ask everybody, It is sweeter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Yes.
sweeter. It tastes like flat Coke.
Oh, bro. We ask everybody the same question at the end of the show. It's 2 decades of music. We established that many of the other decades are fine, but these two are kind of controversial. It's the 80s or the 90s.
Which one do I prefer?
Yes.
He's easy. Like I'm a big, he's like not even just music, but like 80s music, 80s movies, he's TV, books, comics, everything. So culture. So yeah, I would say 80s for sure.
Everything but the fashion.
Even the fashion. The fashion was awesome. Like I love seeing, like I've always been someone to say Aquanet should make a comeback, I think.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
I'm a big hair metal guy.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm a big hair metal guy,
fair.
so I want to see. I've been seeing some bands do it. Like I've seen mainly in Europe. Like I've been seeing like some bands in Europe kind of break it out now, and I'm like, nah, we need more Aquanet.
Nice.
Man, I lived through the 80s, and I love it.
Final message. Well, first, what's next? What do you guys got going on next? Any albums coming out? What's going on?
We're gonna be going
Just
back.
released one.
The plan is to go back into the studio in in the summer sometime to record a couple songs. Where the plan is to release a few singles in the next little while. That would eventually trickle into album 3. But the next thing we have immediately is we're playing Armstrong Metal Fest over in Armstrong, BC. It is one of the biggest metal festivals in Canada. It's been a bucket list festival for years, and I'm very, very fortunate that we're gonna be able to do it this year. So yeah, that's Armstrong Metal Festival, July 17th is what's
Ooh,
next for us.
nice.
And yeah.
That's awesome. And the new album's out.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
like, just came out.
Yeah.
So
And where can people find you? Where do they go look to find all your stuff?
So yeah, go follow and stream us on Spotify. We're on Spotify. We're most active on Instagram. It's at Lycanthro_metal. We still use Facebook. You know, we're a young band. We're also boomers at heart, so we use Facebook. Those are the main places you can find us: Spotify, Instagram, Facebook. We try and post on the other platforms as much, like YouTube and TikTok, as much as we can, just not as much. But yeah, so yeah, Spotify, Instagram, and Facebook are the main places you can find us.
and hard copies, how do they get those?
Oh yes, we have. You can go to lycanthromerch.bigcartel.com. That is our online merch store. We have some stuff left over from the tour, but not much. So
Good for you.
I saw the one bundle you had there. It was looked like a pretty good bundle. Couple of T-shirts and a CD and stuff. It's like, oh,
A bundle.
no.
I love a bundle.
Big fan of bundles.
What do you want listeners to feel when they hear Lycanthro?
honestly, I just hope that it brightens their day. I hope it's something that it's music that they can, feel happy and fist pumpy to, and hope it's like something that gives people an epic feeling, but also is something that people can relate to on a personal and emotional level. So yeah, that's the ultimate goals in my opinion.
Good goal. Great goal.
Awesome goal.
Really nice to talk to you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It was great chatting with you guys, and yeah, go watch and listen to Dawg and Gus.
Oh,
Yeah, what he said. What James said.
Yeah, he's a gent.
He's a gent.
He's a gem. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Dawg and Gus, Dawg and Gus, Dawg and Gus.